My name's Thomas Rotherham. I've worked for Burlington Stone for coming up 22 years. This site is Crishole, which is in the Lake District. It's a green slate quarry, been existed since the 1930s and what have you, and we still extract stone from here. We're a dimensional quarry, unlike aggregate, so it's not blasted into small stuff. We want it as big a lumps as we can get it. So we diamond wire saw the bottom out of it and put the firing holes and the primary blast. The finished lumps of stone we call clog, and that's where they're nice and level and flat and perfect size to go under the saws at Kirby. The lumps are brought from the primary blast and placed here by the loading shovel and the excavator. It's a classed as a safe area, and the machines are removed out of the way so the lad can operate his drill while no interference from machines and what have you. The lad will bring the drill over, he'll drill the holes and we'll charge with black powder. We've also got to take into consideration the placement of the lumps with shot firing operations of what's going on around the quarry and area, people coming into the area. The rock hand will walk around the lumps and assess them from years of working experience. We'll decide where the position of the hole is, judging by the faults that are in the rock, the thickness of the rock, because they can vary what thickness they come out of the rock. The thickness we normally deal in can be anything up to just under a metre or down to 300, 400 mil. There's two sides to the business, roofing slate and architectural products. Roofing slate's obviously for going on house roofs and things like that. But the architectural side of it, it's sawn into and fed into slabs and then polished for worktops, flooring, cladding, all architectural big stuff. Lesser quality material will be using thinner lumps, so on smaller saws, whereas if you're doing architectural, they have to go on the 2.5 saw, so you can cut them, make them and bait them through, which is the natural split of the rock where you drill the hole in. So you've got to use that to your advantage, so drilling your hole in there where bait is and splitting it down. Bait that I keep talking about is a natural split of the rock. So it's like when you see someone riving a roofing slate and splitting it with a hammer, we're doing that, but we're doing it with black powder and drilling along the cleavage, the split of that. So the cross hole is the reverse of that, because you're going cross through the bait to cut it instead of splitting it. We use bait, it's like the quarryman's big friend. It's the natural thing that we use to extract the rock by drilling cross holes and bait holes, and it splits naturally along those lines. Finding the bait on the rock is a skill learnt for over years of doing the actual rock and working with it. Like if you look at this lump here, there's lines there that's giving you a clue roughly where it is. It's not bang on, but those lines where the rock is torn is giving you a good idea of where it is. Or the old simple way is getting a sledgehammer or a hammer and knocking a bit off, and it will start to split and rive, like you can just see it in there, has now sort of thing. Different holes, hole positions can be used and angles of the drill, but mainly the two holes we use is baiting, which is the flatness of the rock, and then cross holes, which is across the bait, so drill 90 degrees to the bait, which will cut the rock. So if you end up with massive lumps come out of the rock face that we can't physically pick up with a loading shovel and load onto the wagon, you have to make them to suit that size, so you can be cross-holing lumps to cut them instead of, there's no dimensional saw up here, so you can use the black powder to your advantage and the skill of the man drilling the hole. Here's a lump of slate that's ready to be blasted. So the rock arm will come and look at it and decide the best position to drill a hole based on years of knowledge, faults in the rock and what have you. Like here, for example, you wouldn't drill your hole underneath there because it'd be awkward to charge for the lad following him round and what have you. But you could come round here and place the hole in here on bait. Here, there's a slipe there which is leaning back. A slipe is a quarryman's name for a joint or a fault in the rock. But your hole would be quite easy to drill here compared to around that end. So you would drill it, but you'd have to watch the length hole. You wouldn't want to put a small hole in it because there wouldn't be a lot of burden. So you would drill full length hole, and then there's less chance of anything being projected out of your safe working area. Here are another lump. With this lump, I would tend to drill in the middle of it, so you'd end up with two even-sized lumps. Burdens the distance from the top of the rock down to where the hole is buried into the rock. On the 19mm smaller holes we use, we're looking for a minimum of 300mm of burden. The heavy meter is fastened to the drill, and this records the time and points, and this allows us to control his exposure. Robert's walked away from the drill there, so we can check the alignment is perfect with the cleavage in the rock. some of the lumps we'll find slipes and faults that run normally pretty true. You can see them running in the rock, so your hole position can be quite critical when you do it. But we can't find one in any lumps at the minute, so what I'll do is I'll draw one on with chalk and I'll explain it because the picture's 1,000 words in it. So if you've got a slipe running through or a fault like that that's running right through the lump there, so if the hole's positioned on the right hand side of this slipe, it would rive and follow up there, take the easiest route out because it would just go. But if the hole was placed this side, it would rive both directions and then would continue through that more than likely and then carry on round. So you'd only be doing it with one hole as opposed to two, and less chance of anything being projected or moved away. For normal bait holing, where the lumps are set out like we've been looking at this morning, you would predominantly use a smaller drill there of 19mm to drill your holes to knock the lumps through. But in the bigger lumps, you'd use what we call second gear, which are these 26mm diameter holes, and you start with a shorter one and then progress up the length. Through years of experience, you tend to know how long a hole to drill in the lumps. With the bigger drill steels, you're having a bigger burden. If you wanted to get into the centre of a lump, you're drilling quite a long hole into it, so you'll have like a long lot of stemming at the back of it and burden. Powder, like any explosives, has to be handled with great care. We use this method to protect the integrity of the rock. Black powder is transported round site in a vehicle that's clean and grip-free and roadworthy, and also displaying a red beacon. And also during the day, the explosives, when it's not in use, is kept in the day store. It can be set off a lot easier than some modern explosives, so any flames or spark. Powder is stored in a purposely equipped anti-static container, so you can't get sparks and things like that. To initiate the black powder charges in the bait holes, we use safety fuse, which is a thin strand of black powder encased in string and then like plasticky coating on the outside of it. We're just using shorter lengths. So when we cut the fuses, at the end of the fuse that goes down the hole, we put 3 or 4 notches in and it's bent over. In the copper cartridge is 35 grams of powder, and on average we tend to use 2 cartridges per hole. Using years of experience, the main thing is the burden in the lump of stone. It can be added more if there's more burden, and it can be decreased if there's less burden. When the fuse is placed in the hole, we then cover it with a small amount of powder after, so it's buried and it's secure in the hole and can't be pulled out by the stemmer, and then the dust is added after to contain the charge. All the tools used in charging holes, the stemmers and such like, are made from non-ferrous metal, so they can't make a spark and prevent accidental initiation of the black powder. Black powder doesn't respond well to water, so holes aren't charged when it's wet because you run the risk of getting wet fuses and then you get in misfires, which opens up a big can of worms then, doesn't it?
Copy in, find a bait, all on the bottom floor, is the middle floor all clear. Yeah, middle floor's clear, Robert. Please proceed.
Copy, Peter. Is the road clear there, mate?
Copy, Robert. Road is clear.
Right, off, firing now.
A metre of fuse burns in approximately 120 seconds plus or minus 10 seconds. So you're making the fuse appropriate to what you're doing and making sure you've got yourself enough time to get to the safe designated area. You've got to walk to that area. So your fuses can be 750 mil long for normal bait hauling purposes. But if we have what we call a big gear hole, which can be 35 mil, 6 foot long, and buried 8 foot down in the ground and would a bigger blast, you would end up with like a 5-6 metre fuse, which would take 2 or 3 minutes. Well, that would be a bigger danger zone and more sentries placed out compared to normal bait hauling. As well as baiting lumps, we've got what you call crosshole lumps, which is drilling vertically through the bait of the lump. So the crossholing, the lumps is a nice flat lump that's been finished, but we need to reduce its size because it's physically too big. So the lump would be measured, how thick it is from the ground, and then we would drill a hole vertically through the lump to 100 mil from popping out the bottom side of the hole. This is done by tape measure, measuring the lump, marking up on your drill. And then when you would come to charge this hole, you would obviously check the length of your hole with your stemmer down the hole and pull it out. You can just to confirm its full length. When we're cross-holing, we use slightly less stemming, but this means we increase the danger zone due to the slight chance there could be small stones projected vertically. When we're stemming the holes, that actually seals the hole up airtight and holds the charge in place. When firing crossholes, we would use a larger safety zone because there is more chance of material being projected. There's quite a few factors to look at for the safety zone when we're using black powder, which mainly the size of the hole, the angle of the hole. So holes, we try and avoid pointing holes at pieces of equipment. They're normally pointing towards a rock face, so there's a dead zone that they would go into instead of into where we're stood. The lump can be moved prior to it's been drilled and charged if you know where the hole's going to be, so it's not going to project towards anybody where they're going to be stood at, or a static piece of equipment. People working on other floors We use radios, we have the horns for audible warnings as well. The size of the safety zone will be altered depending on the holes, baked holes, cross holes, the size, the charge of the powder. Obviously the more powder in a lump, the bigger the safety zone. The danger zone can be blocked off using the loading shovel, who will back away and park up, completely blocking access to the working area. Radio communication with people working on another floor so they can vacate the area there, and if it's needed to be, or they can be used as sentries to block entrances and things. This all depends on the size of the holes being fired and what, obviously. Depending on the size of the shot, we'll have sentries out who are in contact via radios and visual contact as well, and clear communications. Visibility can play another part in shot firing up here because of the fog and the mist can come in. You should be able to see where the sentries are at, and so you've got a clear line of sight so no one can come wandering in or involved in it. So if fog comes in or things like that, you obviously would stop the operations until it cleared out. At the end of the day, any unused explosives and safety fuses are returned to the store.